G'day, welcome back. Come on up, Mr. John DiJulius. How about a round of applause for John? Welcome, honey. Speaking of fabulous, I was so excited for this segment. When John and I were planning getting together, I said, I bet people would love to understand so much about your journey, the way you think, the things that make you crazy. So I want to get into that today with John. Does that sound like a good plan? So before we get into it, how did this all start? How did the customer service revolution all start? Tell us about it.
You know, so our mission, our purpose is, 15, 20 years ago, was change the world by creating a customer service revolution. And this room gets it. It might sound hokey outside, but it's something that we really want to do. And we thought if we can get companies treating their employees better, their employees would naturally treat their customers better, and then the ripple effect. But we also realized that we couldn't reach every company, whether, logistically, or they couldn't afford us, or whatever the obstacles may be. So we just thought, man, what if we could bring in our existing clients with, people who want to be a part of this? And that's just how it started. And it started in a small Marriott by the Cleveland airport. And there was just, 200 people. We had a great lineup. We really had a great lineup. But it was just something small. And we were going to have it the first year in Cleveland in 2009. And then figure out how to do it, and then take it to the cities people really want to go to. But we realized with our concierge from our other business, John Roberts Spa, that's where they're all from, we couldn't replicate this in Vegas or New Orleans and anything. And, I think most of you, or all of you, are probably really pleasantly surprised that Cleveland's does rock. It's a really cool city. So, that's just kind of the journey.
You can clap for Cleveland. Yeah. I like that. The fact that we know what makes companies great at customer service, but what prevents companies from delivering exceptional customer service?
It's a great question.
I know. I wrote it.
There's a few answers. Like I'm sure all the speakers here, I get two types of questions after I speak. One is, more commonly, is can we really get 5,000 employees to do this? And the answer is yes, right? Follow the methodology, one bite at a time. It's the second question that's a lot more difficult for me to answer, and that's, how do I get my boss, my VP, my CEO to buy into this? And I say, well, have her come to the next presentation, buy him the book, but I'm really thinking is, you're screwed. Right? We know that. If it's not a value of the parent, it's never going to be a value of the kid. Right. And you need executive sponsorship. And you see all these companies that we're bragging about, they're top bought in. Advanced Financial's been announced a lot. And, they're a payday loan company, right? And by their own admission, they were horrible. When we started working with them, they were buying their competition, and their competition was saying, why are you buying us? Like, you guys are like Dick's Last Resort. You insult people on purpose, right? And it wasn't because of us, it was because of Tina, right? The CEO. She was just so committed to this. And it hasn't gone away. It wasn't Flavor of the Month, Program of the Year, Management by Bestseller. It's come from her, and then she promoted a customer experience executive, and it's what they've done. And so I think one is the executive sponsorship is everything.
Can you tell us more about that? Because you've used that term a few times with me in our conversations. Tell us more about what does that mean, executive sponsorship.
So if we think about companies, Disney, Nordstrom's, the Ritz-Carltons, Chick-fil-A's, all the ones we all think of, Zappos, Amazon, you can tell why, right? Steve Jobs was, Jeff Bezos is, Walt Disney was obsessed with the customer experience. So any article you ever read on them, video you watch, no matter the topic, they bring it back to how it affects the customer experience. And the other point to this that I think is, there's a great book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and it's just so simple. It's like silly simple. But the whole point is, whether you do something today or you don't really doesn't matter, okay? In everything across the world. Whether you eat a donut or 2 or 3 this for lunch, or you do or you don't, doesn't matter. You're not going to look any different. You're not going to weigh anything different, but it's making those choices after 6 months, And it's the same with everything. Whether you train your employees on being better at the soft skills, building relationship, making brilliant comebacks, building rapport, showing compassion and empathy, or you don't this week, your sales aren't going to be any different. Nothing's going to change. But in 6 months, it's a freight train going one way or the other. And that's why customer service, it's not a quick get-rich scheme. Now, slashing prices, buying a competitor, doing something like that's a quick get-rich scheme that gets results for Wall Street or your shareholders or whoever today. But in 6 months, you're probably in a worse position than you are. So, it's the compound effect that people are too impatient because it's a 6-month return.
Right. And it feels like everything that you do, you're in it for the long term. You're all about the long game with the relationships that you're building. People see you today and they think, oh, he's so lucky, right?
I am.
You are, but
I hang out with people like you.
Well, yeah, that makes him very lucky. Yeah.
And she calls me gorgeous. But if you ever talk to Neen, she calls everyone gorgeous. So I thought it was me.
I see that people are so magnificent, like so beautiful, right?
Everyone's your favorite human being.
They think they're my favorite human being.
You make them feel like that.
Yeah, of course. That's why it's important to me. I want every person I meet to feel like they are the most important person I've spoken to all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and you do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. But today's not about me. So let's get back to you. So people, they use this word around you and they say, wow, he's so lucky. But I know it hasn't always come easy to you. Right? And I don't know that everyone knows your journey. And some things that I, found out about John, I'm guessing you weren't voted, to be super successful when you're at school. A couple of things people may not know, but at age 6, your dad deserted your mom, and 5 older brothers, and sisters. You went from being upper middle class to welfare overnight. You were labeled with ADD, attention deficit disorder, and LD, learning disabled. You were requested to repeat the majority of your grades in school. People don't know that.
Requested. I didn't, but I was requested. That's true. I know my mom wouldn't let them. And I thought we owned the school. I really did. Because my mom used to tell people that she had to buy the school to get me through it. And so I literally took that seriously, and I'd start telling, the teachers what to do. I'm like, hey, I own this place, That's a true story.
That does
really
not surprise any of you, does it, if you know John? That's amazing.
Yeah.
You graduated from high school dead last. You flunked out of college. Shall I keep going? So how did you turn all this around? Tell us about that.
I'm trying to think. I just had a mom that believed in me, and and a lot of people didn't think she was tough enough on me. So when the teachers would call or the principals would call, first couple employers would call, the police might have stopped by, and she'd always stick up for me and always say, how much she believed in me to me. And about me, and make the biggest deal out of it. And this is such a leadership example for me. So I remember she went to parent-teacher conference, and she came home and she was pretty upset, and because they didn't have anything that good to say. And I said, did they say anything good? Because I was disruptive. I was, pulling the ponytails of, the people and, next to me and all that and, affecting their learning. And she said, yeah, they said you always dress nice. And that was so untrue. Like I didn't. We didn't have any money. I wore probably the same clothes every day. And I had, if you see these pictures, this is early 70s. I had this, just hair, right? Big hair. I didn't probably take a shower and stuff. But I'll tell you, the next morning, after she told me that, I took longer to get ready because I had a reputation to uphold, right? Like, it was really weird. I'm like, oh, well, they expect me to look nice because, they told my mom. And it was like, man, if they would have said, or she would have said, he was really good in math, I think I would have done better in math. But the bottom line to your question is, my mom just made the biggest deal out of the silliest things I would accomplish and make me feel like, I could do anything. And it was just this blind ignorance that gave me arrogance.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've always believed that we have a responsibility to hold someone's potential. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, for me, I have people in my life where I hold this place of potential for them because I can see so much more in them than sometimes they can even see in themselves. And your mum held your potential for you as this incredible gift. And then you stepped up and you stepped into it so powerfully. Yeah. So I think the legacy that she created and lives on in you, but it also lives on in your boys. I know that if you know anything about John, you know that he absolutely worships his sons. Very, very incredible men. But it hasn't always been easy for you raising them. You lost your beautiful wife many years ago. So tell us about, how do you do things on a daily basis when something like that happens?
I don't think we have a choice, right? If you bury your first thing, I look at everything as how lucky I was, right? How lucky I was to, be married for 18 years and to have 3 amazing kids. And then, while you never want that situation ever to happen, how lucky I was to have the support system of my, family and my staff and the career I had that allowed, me to take as much time as I needed, and 3 amazing boys. So I just really focused on, as silly as it may sound, how worse it could be. And that, people compliment my boys, and they should, but they give me way too much credit. I mean, they have so much of her in them. So of all, that's so important. So, that's one thing. I wherever I got that from, I just always look at, wow, how lucky I am versus, what, could have been. And then the other thing is, we just have an obligation. If I stick my head in the sand and say, woe is me, what did I just do to my boys?
Right.
I just cheated them. What did I do to my 150 team members that are counting on me?
Right.
And that bought into my vision, not and contingent that I would always have good days. They bought into my vision and gave up opportunities elsewhere because they believed in me, and I'd be bailing on them. And then clients.
Right.
What would the snowball effect that if I cheated my employees, they would start cheating, clients. So I don't know. I just felt like there was never an option.
Okay.
And I'm lucky. I'm so blessed.
I was in the DiJulius stand yesterday, and one of the amazing team members was there, and Cal was with me. Cal's one of my favorite people, and I mean that he's one of my favorite people. And she looked at him, and she said, "You have so much of your mother in you." Oh, what a beautiful thing to say. It was just that magic moment.
Yeah, that's the highest compliment you can give him.
Yeah. It was, but it was very powerful, not only just watching Cal's body language and the way he received that beautiful compliment, but it also reminded me that we need to take these moments to tell people those beautiful things we see in them, those amazing things we appreciate them, that moment that took her a fraction of a second but totally changed his body language, his physicality, everything. It was really a very powerful moment. And I think you're the role model for that for so many. There's a phrase that I know that you hate, and that is, I gave it my best. Why do you hate that phrase so much?
Yeah, so this may not be popular with everyone. I just think it's a crutch. It's similar to, well, we all can't be perfect. And not meaning anyone should be, but I just think that's a cop-out. The results of today, whether you win a race, kick ass on stage, close the sale, get an ace on a test, any other endeavor, has at least to do with the effort put in today. I'm sure you tried as hard as you could on that test today. But what have you been doing the past 3 months? What have you been doing the past 6 months? Have you been working, that customer? Have you been, forwarding them? Have you, so I don't want my boys, I don't want any of my team members, and they know this, to ever, if we don't hit our goals, and I can't say it either, oh, well, I gave my best. Oh, well, Chad, if you gave your best, then, it's understandable. No, like your best is what you were capable of doing last year. And if you think about the greatest accomplishments ever, inventions, revolutions, it wasn't a result of someone. It's something they tried 999 times. And they tried a few more times, and it finally worked. They knocked on doors, made phone calls to people they had no right calling, and they got an interview, a meeting, advice. And so I don't know. I've always it drives me crazy hearing I gave my best. I just don't like hearing that. And I know that's a little, controversial, but it's just something that I don't want your best. Just make it happen. Nicole.
Yes, who we all love. How about a round of applause
Yeah.
for Nicole
Yeah.
and everything she has created to help make this event such an
Yeah.
experience for people.
So, like, Nicole I call her the shredder.
The shredder?
Yeah, you just give Nicole, she'll get it done. It's just, and
There's an analogy for you.
she just won't come back until she figures it out. And, it's some great crazy lengths to figuring out, the necklace or whatever, to wherever she has to go to get the information or resources or connections of connections of connections. But I don't know, just we're not here to give our best.
I watched your team with you, and some of them have 20 plus years with you. And they're so dedicated to you, and they're committed to the success. But I see so much of it is about the loyalty that they want to show you. How do you instill that in teams? How do you earn that?
It's collecting the right people, and I've just been the one thing I will brag on besides my sons is I've done a really good job of collecting unique people, right? And so I call this the 30-foot high fence with barbed wire on it. I have a lot of acquaintances, but I only let a few people inside because whoever you let inside are going to affect you. They're going to change the way you think. And if I told you the next person that's coming up here that you've never met before is an SOB, arrogant, did it, and then when they say hi, you're going to see arrogance, right? Versus I see the next person is Neen James. I mean, just, oh my God, like call her at 3 a.m. and she won't ask you why she'll be there. And she says the same hello, you'll see that genuineness. And so, I've just been really good and protective about who I let in, and then they make me look good. So I said this last night with the speakers. I'm one of the speakers here. I just look and see what time I'm supposed to be on, and I show up. And so many people are coming up to me saying, what an amazing job you did. I had nothing to do with this. My team did. But sometimes my team could make me feel guilty for the lack of passion I have compared to them. Like, they're so obsessed about this. They really are.
I have this phrase in my life that says, there's only certain people who are allowed to speak into my life. Do you know what I mean by that? If someone speaks into your life, they have permission, and it's a very trusted position that I will solicit their input, their feedback. How do I enhance things? Someone like Judson you're going to hear from today has that permission, but it's a very small group of people. You mentioned the 30-foot fence with the barbed wire about it. Who speaks into your life?
Those, my team, I have managing partners of all three of the businesses, John Robert Spa, the DiJulius Group, and Believe in Dreams. And, they do. And, my fiance, Claudia, my 3 boys, and just some of my close friends. But they're all really good role models to me. Like, they're the type that, would say, let's get a workout in, or let's,
On a Peloton.
on the Peloton, right?
So when we think about role models, you use that word, and we think about the concept of mentors, you've mentored an enormous amount of people. And sometimes mentors can take the form of just being in your presence. You could work with them one-on-one. But who are your mentors?
Oh, man, great question. So many. Some I know, some I don't know. I love leaders with ethics.
Give me an example.
Howard Schultz, I absolutely love him, right? It's just because he's all about taking care of the underdog. Like, that really means a lot to me. And just the way he built his business, and everyone's a partner, and just every time he speaks, it's about, like, he did a commencement speech you got to download and watch for ASU, Arizona State, and he just said, you're going to be the generation that racism and discrimination and is going to be only known as in the history books. Like, what a great message.
Powerful.
To tell people.
Yeah.
Right? Parts of Steve Jobs, right? His just raw ambition to just not accept, what is the current, status quo. So, but a lot of our clients, like, I love our clients. We have the luckiest job, as you know, because our audience motivates us. Our clients motivate us.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be the other way around.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that Howard, who you all know is probably the founder of Starbucks, says we're not in the coffee business. We're in the people business.
Right.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So we have all these different sources of input in our lives. You love TED Talks. You've done a TEDx talk. We read books. We listen to podcasts. But of all of the advice that you've received, what's some of the best advice you've ever received?
I think the first one is just, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? I mean, it's so true. We've heard it a million times, but it's so true. And to me, that's the biggest compliment you can give me. Because if I was, and I'm the weakest of the 5, but that's like, it's like having the smallest house on the big street, right?
Right.
My friends, my close friends, are just great quality people, great husbands, great fathers that I'm always, trying to, be more like. Try to be more as appreciative and of everything you get. Right, of every day that comes your way, of looking at that. And another thing is and I think this is a message that needs to be sent to our employees and our children, especially the younger generation. They have all these role models that aren't realistic, if you want to say it. Right, Facebook, all these .coms that they gotten rich overnight. So they're all. I speak to college kids, and they. Why haven't you started working? Why'd you only work there for 6 months? Because I'm not passionate about it. So I think that's unrealistic to expect to be passionate day one. And you know that. We've all stumbled onto our passion. And so what I love to tell people and remind myself is it's not about how you work, how hard you work when you find your passion. It's how hard you work and how you act when you haven't. When you're in that transitional job, when you're in the position that you're hoping to get promoted, to. It's what you do. And that might be parking cars. Mm-hmm. It might be digging ditches.
Sure.
It might be being a concierge here. It's probably not what anyone wants to do for the next 30 years and retire and get a gold watch. But it's what you do during that time that says more about you,
right,
than it does when you finally, find that, your purpose in life.
So you have been very specific about customer service as the industry that you want to revolutionize. Why don't you teach social media, sales training, presentation skills? Why just customer service?
2 reasons. One, I'm not talented enough to do multiple things. It's true. Like, so when I was growing up, my friends in fall played football and basketball or wrestle in the winter, and in baseball in the summer. I had to practice in the fall and winter baseball to make the baseball team in the spring. I couldn't spread myself too thin, right? So it's the same thing here. I only want to be known for one thing, our company, and I also want our clients to trust that no one's smarter at us than at customer service, customer experience. And if we're taking requests to do a social media, a leadership, a marketing, seminars, which we don't do, then we'd have to be spending our intellectual capital time development on those topics. And so I don't want to. I just want to eat, sleep, and drink one thing so our clients and our staff can trust that no one knows more about than us.
So tell me, where do you see the future of customer service?
The future, I think, it's like Back to the Future. I
How?
think it's going to convert back to relationships, like I talked about yesterday, because relationships in a lost art. The art of building rapport with people is totally gone. I talked about, Mark Sanborn talked about last night, our kids don't, and no fault of their own. Us older people were forced to do a lot of things that our kids aren't. And, the touchscreen era, they don't have innate people skills. And so, and in companies, you deal with so many technology that when you finally do get a human being, they don't know how to, show empathy and compassion and put themselves in your shoes. And that's why, like, that day in the life that Glick did, that so many of our clients do, is so important for you to create on your own, is because all of us become numb to our customers. We do this every day. We do it 10 times a day. I got to help prevent my service providers in the spa business not to look at you as their 5:30, their 8th haircut of the day, the 3rd last one, so they get the hell out of here.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you asked your husband to buy you this gift certificate at this nice spa. You've taken the day off, got a babysitter, and it's on your calendar 14 more days. Today's the day, but we look at you as a 5:30.
Right.
A hospital looks at you as 201B, right? Bedroom, a room. No, that's my mom.
Right.
Right? And, so two things that we become numb to next. I have a keynote in Philly. Right? No, that's not a keynote in Philly. That's a company investing so much money, more money than bringing a speaker in. They closed business and have everyone sitting in there. That's not a keynote in Philly. Their next 6 months need to reflect your keynote in Philly to, all those things that, and the other part is most of our customer-facing employees aren't the customer, right? A lot of customer-facing employees are 23 to 33, and a lot of our clients are 35 to 55. And they can't relate to what it's like to be a CEO, a housewife with 3 kids. So it doesn't mean we change who we hire, but we got to teach them to appreciate what a day in the life of the client is.
Right.
So I could be more present and more, instead of looking at you like, who does this lady think she is?
Let's talk about that more. When I was in the oil industry, one of my responsibilities was to run the learning and development team. And so every month I would put on a little trainee uniform with a trainee badge, and I'd go and work in a gas station. I would pump the gas, I would dip the tanks, I would serve the customers. And the reason that I did it was because I wanted to understand what was a day in the life of the people I was writing programs for. What was their experience? What were they doing? And I think there's something very powerful about spending a day in the life of not just our customer, but our team. And as leaders, can we sit and answer the calls? Can we process the orders? All of those things. When I work with my clients, I do that. I sit in their call center. I listen to their calls. I do those things so I can understand them. But what is a day in the life of John DiJulius?
It's cool. It is. Yeah. It really is. It's
Tell
so
us about
fun.
it.
Well, as you know, it's different every day. When I'm in Cleveland, we get up early and get a Peloton workout in. She got me on Peloton, and so I'm really enjoying it. And then always, I have one son at home, and Cal's in college, and my other one is training to make the Olympic team in wrestling, and so that's really cool, but they're not at home. So, I'd like to drive my son to school every day when I'm in town. And since Cal and all three of my boys were in pre-K, do the same thing every day. On the way, I say, how about we blow off school today? And they say, really? I say, no. But one day a year, I'll say yes. And they don't know it, and I pull out, and I'll call the school and say, we're playing hooky today. And it could be anything from going down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to getting on a plane to, Universal Studios. Yeah, and so the other thing I do that annoys them, but they'll get mad if I ever forget, ever since pre-K all the way till I drop them off at college, is I get, when they get out of the car and they're walking, I wait till they get in, like, with their friends, and I roll down the window and I say, I love you, Cal, I love you, Bo, and they have to turn around and say, I love you too, Dad. And then I say, what? And they have to say it louder. And they get in trouble if they don't do that. Because I want my kids to be proud of saying, I love you to your parents. But, like, sometimes I've, like, shame on me. I've been in such a hurry that I have to get, and I forgot to do it. And they'll come home that night and be so mad at me. And it's so funny. Yeah. They're like, you didn't say it today. Aww. And I'm like, you're 21. So, and then, then I get, to go collaborate with my team, have awesome calls with clients. I mean, I'm going to have they have fantasy baseball camps. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have a fantasy John DiJulius thing. It's really cool.
Who'd sign up for that?
Yeah, it's fun. It's so much fun. I get to work with people like you.
We get to hang out and chat.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So Mark talked about loving customers yesterday. That was something I thought was really powerful when Mark Sambon was talking about that. You've said more than a dozen times, I love what I do. I love my customers. What does that really mean? When you say you love your customers, tell us more about that.
I love what Mark said, just the love word. And he's absolutely right. Like, I don't want to work with people if they have a fence to love. Just like I won't work with a consulting client if I can't have a call with the CEO. Because if the CEO isn't willing to talk about this and isn't bought in, I know it's not going to be successful. The CEO is not willing to give 15, 20 minutes to this project on the front end and convince me that they're really into this. I always say, man, have a better Christmas party. Get a DJ. You'll have a longer effect than investing in us. Right? And you're going to make us look bad.
Right.
But the love. I love, Seth Godin says, outlove your competition. Mm-hmm. You probably can't outspend your competition, right? You might not be able to hire, but you can outlove your competition. And so the way I look at that is, right, celebrate your clients. And so I always tell, and we do this, have client appreciation events. But not the way you think, okay? Not where you have cheese and wine, you have your clients come in, and those are fine, do that. But, like, we just had a client appreciation event at one of our John Roberts all-company meetings. No clients were there. But everyone had to go around the room and talk about who their three favorite clients are. And so someone gets up and says, my God, I have this one client, Neen, and she comes in, and I ran like 40 minutes late. I felt so bad, and I do it every time. And Neen's like, oh, my God, honey, it's okay. I got caught up in emails. And it's like, she's like the greatest person. And then she always sends me these cards, and so they go around the room. And then everyone leaves saying, we got the best job. And we're thinking about the clients versus, as we all, all our companies are guilty of, you go in that back room, and you're back there saying, oh, my God, I had a client from hell. And I said, I had one of those last week. And then he says, and then it seems like 100% of our clients suck. And we're like, this job sucks. And they're all out to take advantage. And they're only 2%. So let's do the opposite.
Right.
Let's talk about the ones that are just the Tina Hodges and, the just awesome clients that are they trust us so much.
Right.
And they make us look good and, like, take an idea and do something with it, and it's not what I meant. But, yeah, that's what I meant, because it works so well, right? And let's talk about those so we go home and we're like, God, how lucky are we? Instead of the 1% that,
I think it's important to keep perspective of how fortunate we are to do what we do with the people that we do it with. I have a mantra in my office, and it says, I do what I love with people I love in places I love. And that's how I measure who we're going to work with, where I'm going to go to speak, and what projects I'm going to take on board. So for the last day and a half, you have exposed us all to some great minds, different levels of thinking. You've had diversity on the platform in your breakouts. What are the things you want us to take away? And by the way, we've still got some great programming left. But what are some of the things you want us to take away when we're leaving Cleveland today? What are some of the highlights, the things that you want us to think about?
Just that anything is possible, right? I mean, literally anything is possible. And, just imagine a future where people apply because of the reputation you have, because of the way they've been treated by you, or someone's told them, or their sisters worked for you for 10 years, and they are dying to get in to your type of company. That your reputation deters people from applying, because my next door neighbor, who's not, let's say, I'm making this up, let's say she's not the most friendliest 22-year-old. And she says to me, I'm going to look for a job, and I heard Chick-fil-A's hiring, right? I'd probably say, yeah, maybe not Chick-fil-A, right? Think of, because I know what Chick-fil-A expects, and she's not a perfect match. Can you imagine if people, your reputation was filtering out the ones that couldn't come to you, and you were attracting the people that are dying to be part of something? And so everyone on your team knows their North Star, knows what their service vision is, and they look forward to coming to work. Can you imagine that? That people look forward to coming to work, and they go out of their way to help the client. And whenever you're a day maker, the day maker feels the best, right? That person that said that to Cal, and she saw his reaction, she felt the best, right?
Yeah.
The guy we pay the toll behind us just out of
Love
kicks.
doing that. Yep.
I feel better for doing that than he did for receiving it.
Right.
So you work in a culture that fosters and takes the handcuffs and the autonomy. All of a sudden, you do start becoming the type of business that clients can't live without.
I love it.
Yeah.
Did you like this format of us getting to chat with John?
Thank you.
To John DiJulius.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.